We will today, let's start with, chanting Jai Radha Madhav. Yeah? Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha
Kunja Bihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajjanarandana
Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajjanarandana
Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunda Bihari
Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari
everyone again for today's discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. So let's start with the verses that we have decided for today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, which is observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And I'm told that until the verse 7 has already been covered, so we'll cover the next 3-4 shlokas just to continue with the discussion. So the first verse I'll chant and you can repeat, and then we'll repeat the translation and I'll read the purport. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha, Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha, Kripascha Samitim Jaya, Ashwathama Vikarnascha, Somadattistathaiva cha. Bhavan, your good self. Bhishmaha, grandfather Bhishma. Cha, also. Karnaha, Karna. Cha, and. Kripaha, Kripa. Cha, and. Samitim Jaya, always victorious in battle. Ashwathama, Ashwathama. Vikarna, Vikarna. Cha, as well as. Saumadatti, the son of Somadatta. Tatha, as well as. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. There are personalities like you. Please repeat. There are personalities like you. Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta, called Bhurishrava, who are always victorious in battle. Please hear the purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Duryodhan mentions the exceptional heroes in the battle, all of whom are ever victorious. Vikarna is the brother of Duryodhan, Ashwathama is the son of Dronacharya, and Saumadatti or Bhurishrava is the son of the king of the Bahalikas. Karna is the half-brother of Arjun, as he was born of Kunti before her marriage with King Pandu. Kripacharya's twin sister married Dronacharya. The next two verses I will just read, please listen. They are related, so we will just cover all of them. Anye cha bahava shura madarthe tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in military science. अपर्याप्तं तदस्माकं बलं भीष्माभिरक्षितं पर्याप्तं त्विदमेतेषां बलं भीमाभिरक्षितम्. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhim, is limited. Let me just read the two purports. As far as the others are concerned, like Jayadarath, Kritavarma and Shalya, all are determined to lay down their lives for Duryodhana's sake. In other words, it is already concluded that all of them would die in the battlefield of Kurukshetra for joining the party of sinful Duryodhana. Duryodhana was, of course, confident of his victory on account of the above-mentioned combined strength of his friends. Herein an estimation of the comparative strength is made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general, Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would only be killed by Bhima. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhishma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious was well ascertained. Let us offer our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we have the opportunity of discussing these three shlokas from the first chapter. And the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is like setting the scene. There's a grand battle that is just about to start, and all the Pandavas and the Kauravas are facing each other. And the first thing in those days the armies would do is to inspect each other's power. So, of course, Duryodhana inspected the army of Pandavas. So, in the past few verses, you see that Duryodhana is talking about how powerful is the Pandava army, who are the great warriors in the Pandava army, and who else is he seeing in the Pandava army. But interestingly, immediately after that, he moves on to talk about his own army. And he's comparing the two armies. So, here we see Duryodhana's nature. His nature. So Duryodhana, as you all know, was a very powerful, materially very powerful person. He was physically very strong. He had 100 brothers. He had grandfather Bhishma. Bhishma was probably the most powerful person on that battlefield. And Bhishma Dev is a very, very special personality. In the Bhagavad Puran, we get more information about the qualities of Bhishma Dev. But Bhishma Dev, he was of course a very good warrior. He could not be defeated in war by anyone. But more importantly, he was a very pure devotee of Lord Krishna. And he is actually considered as one of the 12 great personalities in Bhagavad Puran, which are called as the 12 Mahajans. And these are very select 12 personalities who are considered as the most pure devotees of the Lord. But because of circumstances, Bhishma Dev had to take a position where he was to fight the Pandavas. Now Bhishma Dev, was so powerful that in his earlier years he had received a boon from his father. And one of the boons, he had received 3 boons, but one of the boons that he received was that he had Ichha Mrityu. He could not be killed by anyone. He would only die when he would decide to die. So with such a person in your army, and with an army which was so powerful, obviously Duryodhan was very confident. I would say overconfident. He was very confident. Now Duryodhan is an interesting personality. He is a personality who was not only full of material strength, but he was full of pride. He was very proud of his own strength and the strength of his army. He was full of lust, which was of course displayed in the sabha where they had tried to disrobe Draupadi Mata. He was full of anger. He was full of envy. And these are the very qualities that make one move away from the Lord. So there are a few qualities that one attains when we become conditioned and we take our life in this kind of body. And the 6 things that happen is Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada and Matsara. So it's lust, anger, greed, illusion or delusion, and Mada is actually pride, and also Matsara, envy. So when these qualities are displayed, and the more that you have of these qualities, you are more away from the Lord. So we can reflect on ourselves as well. When we see these qualities come up in our life, in our own dealings with others, we can understand that we are much further away from understanding the Lord. Now, as a background to the battle, of course, Duryodhan's army had 11 Akshauni's Sena. Akshauni is a unit of the army which is described in the Puranas. And Akshauni, if you consider by today's material standards, is a very huge unit. One Akshauni army has got more than 21,000 chariots, 21,000 elephants, 65,000 horses, and more than 100,000 soldiers. This is one Akshauni, and he had 11 such. And the Pandavas had 7 Akshauni. Pandavas had a smaller army relatively compared to him. Of course, materially the calculation doesn't work. If you have an army with, it's maybe in today's context, it's like a big country fighting against a tiny little country, right? So it's like that. And in this calculation, Duryodhan had sort of made up his mind that he's going to win this battle. Come what may, he's going to win this battle. On the other hand, if you look at the Pandavas were fighting the war for a righteous cause. They were fighting the war because they just wanted their rightful claim to the land that belonged to them. And Duryodhan had actually told them, even after 13 years in exile, they had lived 13 years in exile. It's like Vanvas, like what Lord Ramchandra had, in exile. And they came back. Duryodhan had said, I will not even give you the land that is covered by a tip of a pin. So imagine the kind of greed he had, the kind of pride he had. He had refused. And that's why Pandavas were definitely justified in going for the war. They are fighting for a righteous cause. While Duryodhan was fighting to get more and more and more. So you should understand the context of this battle that's going to start. Now, if you look at this situation, we also understand that the Pandavas were always dependent on Lord Krishna. Duryodhan forgot one thing. He just forgot, he looked at all the warriors, the great warriors, but he never talked about Lord Krishna. That is our situation in life. We look at all our possessions. We have a big house, we have a car, we have a nice family, we have so many relatives, so many friends, so many people know me, I am the most powerful, I can control my situation, and my day goes according to my will. So this is what is called as I, me, my, and mine. All that goes with this can tell us that we have a false sense of confidence, that we control the situation that we are in. And similarly, Duryodhan always thought that he controls the war that he's in and he's going to decide the outcome of the war. While Pandavas, on the other hand, if you look at the way Pandavas, Arjun will then inspect the Kauravas, and Arjun's mood is very different. Arjun doesn't talk about, oh, he's so powerful, I have somebody matching in my army, he's so powerful, I have somebody matching. He just pays respect to his elders, Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, and all the elders. And actually he becomes compassionate towards his relatives, because he knows that in this war there's going to be total destruction and he doesn't want his relatives to die. So with this context, the approach of the Kauravas and the Pandavas is well understood. It's all about making the right choice. In life, it's about making the right choice. Now, this can be understood with a very nice story which actually happened before the battle started. So, before this huge battle was going to start, in fact, Duryodhan and Arjun visited Lord Krishna. So, they went to Dwarka, because Lord Krishna is in Dwarka and he was in his palace. And it was in those days the custom to go and get support from everybody for the war, so that you have more army, you have more might. So they went to meet Lord Krishna. And it so happened that Duryodhan entered the palace first. And as soon as he entered the palace, he saw Lord Krishna was lying down on his bed with his eyes closed. And then there were asanas or seats to sit. And Duryodhan was proud because he was the king. So he went to the asana right in front of the head of Lord Krishna and sat there. And after a while, Arjun came there. And Arjun also entered the palace. And Arjun saw that the Lord was resting. He didn't go and sit on the chair. He just found a seat next to the Lord's feet. So he just sat on the bed next to the Lord's feet and waited patiently. After a while, Lord Krishna opened his eyes. And he saw Arjun first, because he was just lying and Arjun was sitting in front of him. He saw Arjun and he asked him, "What brings you here? How can I help you?" So before Arjun could speak, Duryodhan interrupted. And Duryodhan said, "I came first. You must ask me first." And his attitude was also different. So the Lord said, "Okay, I will of course satisfy both of you. But I must ask Arjun first because I saw him first. And he is your younger brother. So it is etiquette that I talk to him first." And then he told both of them that I will give both of you something. Don't worry. I have two choices. I will give either myself or I will give my Narayani army, which is a huge army. And the condition is the one who accepts me, I will not take up any weapon in the war. I will just be a witness. I will not take up any weapon. Immediately Arjun said, "Lord, I want you on my side." And the Lord said, "Are you sure? I'm not going to take up any weapons. I'll just be your chariot driver, nothing else." He said, "If you are with me, I am satisfied with everything." On the other hand, Duryodhan became so happy. He thought Arjun is really, out of his mind. Arjun doesn't know how to fight a war. What does he know about a war? He is really out of his mind. I am so happy that I got the army, and not a simple army, Narayani army, which is Lord Krishna's own huge army. So that's where Duryodhan starts. So you can understand the approach of somebody who is aligned with the will of the Lord, or or somebody who is surrendered to the Lord, compared to somebody who considers Lord to be a ordinary person. It's very common and it's almost always possible for many of us and almost all of us, although we theoretically know that there is God, there is Lord Krishna, we may not accept the supremacy of Lord because we think ourselves as small little Ishwaras. We think ourselves as we are in control because that's the way this world is made, for us to think that everything around us is under our control. And that is the reason we have what is called as envy against the Lord. So Duryodhan was envious. He was envious of Krishna. But he went there to ask for help. Arjun was totally surrendered to Krishna. Arjun said, Lord, if you are on my side, even if I lose the battle, it's okay. Whatever you will is my will. So this is called aligning with the will of the Lord. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, we will notice that there is this thing called as described as illusion. So every conditioned soul, whoever has taken a body, a material body, is under illusion. And this illusion is because of what is called as a false identification with the body. We think that the body is everything. Actually, our existence is eternal. We have a body, we have to take care of the body, we have to take care of the needs of the body, the family, the society, the nation. But there is something beyond that, and that is our eternal existence, and that is our soul. So when we forget our eternal soul and we forget the Lord and we forget our relationship with the Lord, then what happens? We fall into illusion. And this illusion makes us feel that, we have a false ego. We think I, me, my, and mine. And in that situation, when that happens, we then start behaving like little Duryodhanas. We must accept that all of us have defects that make us in small ways behave like Duryodhana. Because when we are also waging a war, we think that we'll control it, we know what is the outcome, we know. But that is what happens. But what does Bhagavad Gita tell us? In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, right from the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is called as Bhagavan. Now Bhagavan means the supreme, somebody who is supreme. So it's not a post that somebody takes up. It is an eternal position. He is Bhagwan, everybody else is conditioned soul. Everybody has some illusions. And he says that, he says in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma na eti mameti sorju. Janma karma cha me divyam. One who understands that my birth and my activities, Lord is talking, yeah? He's talking to Arjun. Janma karma cha me divyam. One who understands that my birth and my activities are transcendental does not take his birth again on this mortal planet after he leaves this body. So the Lord is declaring that he is transcendental. He is not like us. And not only the Lord, there are great sages like Devarishi Narad. I'm sure you have heard of Naradji, Narad Muni, Devarishi Narad, Vyasdev, who has actually compiled all the Mahabharata, who has compiled Bhagavad Puran, Vedas, all that we can even think of as transcendental literature has been compiled by Vyasdev. And his son, who is Shukdev Goswami, who actually spoke the Bhagavad Puran to Parikshit Maharaj. All of these great personalities have accepted the Lord as the supreme Lord. He is the supreme. So when we have so much of proof, we must accept it with faith, and we must surrender to the Lord with faith and to his instructions and associate with his devotees. Now we do understand that when devotees approach, or I should say people who are aligned with the Lord approach a particular situation is different from a person who is not aligned with the Lord approaching the same situation, which was already explained between Arjun and Duryodhana. In this context, there is another story which I would like to just share is about Akbar and Birbal. I'm sure you have heard of many stories about Akbar and Birbal. So Akbar and Birbal were very good sort of friends. Akbar was of course the emperor, and Birbal was his minister. Birbal was a devotee of Lord Ram, and he was in the among the ministers, the Navratnas of Akbar's court. So once Akbar and Birbal go in the forest for the usual, in those days Kshatriyas go in the forest for hunting and all that, and then they go deep in the forest, and then they get very tired, fatigued, and it gets dark, and then they are very hungry, and they want something to eat. So in that situation, Birbal just sits down and he says, I will just sit here, I will just pray, he sits down and starts remembering Lord Ram. While Akbar tells him, we need to go and get some food, we are hungry, right? If we don't do any effort, how will we get our food? So Birbal says, no, I think I will just sit here, I am all right, I will just pray to the Lord. Then the emperor gets very restless, then he goes around the forest, he tries to find something, then he finds a small hut, and then he finds somebody staying there. And they immediately recognize he's emperor, so they make him sit and they give him whatever food they have, they give him, he eats to his heart content. And then he packs up a little bit, for Birbal, and then he goes back into the forest. And then he goes to Birbal and says, see, I told you, if you don't make your effort, you don't get anything. And then he gives him the food. So Birbal smiled and said, I am so fortunate. I prayed to Lord Ram and an emperor had to pack food for me and get it for me. I didn't have to do any effort. So the moral of the story is, if you surrender to the Lord will definitely take care. We don't have to have the understanding that only our effort is. Of course, our effort is important. If we don't do our effort, also is not right. We should do our effort to our best ability, but we should depend completely on the Lord's mercy. And that's what the Pandavas did. So if you understand in the next few verses, as Arjuna, although he had compassion for his family members, eventually when Lord Krishna instructed him, Arjun, actually in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he surrendered to them. He said, I will just surrender to you, you are my master, whatever you tell me, I'll do. No? So surrendering to the will of the Lord is the most important aspect, in addition to, of course, doing your own effort. And then you don't look at the result of what is going to come. The Lord takes care of your result, right? So in this context, if we look at, we talked about how a person gets, illusioned and has the thinking that he is controlling the situation. But do we think we actually control the situation? Now, we think that we are the doer of whatever action is going on. So Bhagavad Gita again tells us that, there is a verse in the 3rd chapter which tells us, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimodatma kartaham viti manyate. So because of ahankar is this false ego that I am the controller. Ahankara vimudatma. Vimud means is bewildered. Because of ahankar, we are bewildered to think that we are the doer of the action, which is actually done by material nature. And material nature does these actions by 3 things. One is the mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. These 3 control our actions, and that's how actions are actually generated. So if you think that, we are, the material nature around us controls us, but who controls the material nature? So again in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetu nanena kaunteya jagat viparivar. Maya dhakshena, by I control the material nature. and by my order, material nature is running as it is. So now you understand the link. You understand that although as small individuals we think we do our action, who is the controller? Controller is the Lord. So once we understand that, then we can begin to reduce our 6 defects, the 6 defects that we talked about. And once we surrender to the Lord, the scriptures tell us that automatically the influence of these 6 defects starts to reduce. So automatically lust, anger, greed, envy, pride starts to reduce. And the more we move away from these 6, the more we are suitable to receive the Lord's mercy. So if we look at another quick story, I think we will be finishing soon. I thought stories will be more interesting. So once upon a time in Dwarka there is a temple called Dwarkadhish. Dwarkadhish is the king of Dwarka. Lord Krishna is Dwarkadhish. So in the temple of Dwarkadhish, there was a sweeper who used to come every day to clean and to make sure the temple is very clean, and very sincerely used to work there every day. Very simple-hearted person, very genuine and very humble. And after so many years of work, he saw that Dwarkadhish stands every day on the altar without resting. All day he's standing. He must be tired. So in his heart, he genuinely prayed. He said, Lord, I want to give you some rest. If it helps you to get some rest, I'm happy to take your position just for one day. You can take rest, then you can come back, you can continue your work. So Dwarkadhish, smiled and said, do you really want to do that? It's not an easy job. He said, no, I just want to give you some rest. And then the Lord said, okay, I'll fulfill your desire. I'll give you the suitable, form to replace me. So that sweeper, he took up the form and he stood there. But the Lord gave him one condition, that you will just observe, you will smile, you will bless everybody on my behalf, but you will not speak. Okay, just observe. He thought it's very easy, it's just a one-day job, no problem. He stood there. And as soon as that started, there came a rich man into the temple, very rich man. And he walked into the temple and he came to the donation box and he dropped one coin inside. And then he bowed down and then he said to the Lord, please help me with my business. Give me more and more money. I want success. I'm here to see I'm so devoted. I dropped one coin in your box. And then he turned around and he was leaving. As he was leaving, it so happened that from his pocket, a big bunch of notes fell on the floor. So money fell down on the floor. He didn't realize he went out. And so happened after that came a very poor man in the temple. And he came to the altar and he prayed to the Lord, said, I don't have anything. I just have this 10 rupees, a small little. This is all I have. I give it to you. My family is in a dire strait right now. But whatever you desire, your will, I just will accept it. I just came to surrender to you. So he gives the 10 rupees and he turns around. And as he turned around, he saw this money. And he thought, wow, Lord reciprocates so quickly. And he picked up the money. And he thanked the Lord and said, thank you so much. You answered my prayers. And he walked away. So now this, the new Dwarkadhish was in a dilemma. He said, so many things are happening and I'm supposed to just keep quiet. How is this possible? But then he remembered the Lord said, don't talk. So he just tolerated it. And then came a sailor inside. He was a sailor who was supposed to go on a long voyage on a distant land, and he came into the thing and he just came to the temple and he bowed down and he said, Lord, I'm going on a voyage. Please bless me that the voyage is successful. And as he was praying, immediately, from in the temple entered the police. There's a police entered along with the rich man. So because the rich man realized that his money was lost, he registered a complaint, then he brought the police, and he saw this sailor inside. And he said, he has come after me, I'm sure he has taken the money. So arrest him. The police went and arrested the sailor. So the sailor started, he was bewildered. He prayed to the Lord, I am in trouble. Why are you putting me into this? So now the new Dwarkadish was really in trouble. He could not wait any longer. He thought this is injustice, injustice. So he said, no, he's not, you don't know anything. It's the poor man who stole the money. Leave him. And then when he spoke, everybody was startled, and then the police and all thought, wow, this is a real pure soul. For him the Lord also can speak. And then they left him. And then at the end of the day, this person went to Dwarkadish, the original Dwarkadish, and said, he asked him, how was your day? Was it all right? So he said, it was okay, but I did a very good thing today. He said, what did you do? He said, I saved a sailor from going to the jail. So Dwarkadish was a little upset. He said, I had told you not to talk because I control everything. He said, how do you, and can you explain? So he said, the rich man came to me in the morning. He just gave a fraction of his wealth and he expected me to give a huge amount. Right? So he's a little greedy. I wanted to get him rid of his karma. So I let him lose some money which will be used in some better work. So he lost his money and he left. The poor man was a genuine-hearted person in too much of dire strait trouble, so I helped him by giving him money. So he went home with me. And the sailor who came, he was going on a voyage, but I can see the future. The ship was going to sink in the seas and I wanted to save him. So I let him go into a situation where the ship would leave by the time he is proven innocent. So this tells us that Lord, we may not see it. Externally, we may see discrepancies in our world. We may see that something is not happening according to our plan. Sometimes we see on a day, we plan something, but it doesn't happen the way we want. But we must learn to be mature enough to understand the will of the Lord. Because He controls everything. We have seen in the Bhagavad Gita, He controls everything. So if He controls everything, why is the worry? We do the effort. If it doesn't go our way, we wait for His will. If He doesn't want it to happen anyway, it will not. So some of you might have heard of this phrase which is called as Rakhe Krishna, Mare Ke, Mare Krishna, Rakhe Ke. So if the Lord has to protect you, nobody can destroy you. And if you have done actions which are so, the Lord has decided that it's not good for you to live here, then of course nobody can protect you. So we have to understand that surrender to the will of the Lord is important. Now that we know that there is a problem, that we have this issue about, identifying with our ego, with the body, we have these problems, what is the solution? That is also important. So the solution is to surrender to the instructions of the Lord, surrender to the will of the Lord, and to surrender to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. You must find a bona fide Guru, bona fide spiritual master. Bona fide is somebody who is in a disciplic succession. There is somebody after, there is an authorized, Guru. Sadhu is devotees of the Lord who are pure devotees. So you can see around, families or devotees who are totally engaged in serving the Lord. You should have a desire to associate with them, to learn from them, to see their example, and to try to, become friends with them. And Shastra is what we are reading. So once you do these three things, you will automatically start moving away towards the right direction. Yeah. So just to end, I think we are almost ending soon. So just to give you a context that there are many ways of approaching the Lord. In the Bhagavad Puran, Prahlad Maharaj, we prayed to Narsimhadev just now, and his most dear disciple or devotee is Prahlad. Prahlad had prayers, and one of the prayers is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. These are 9 processes of bhakti. There are different ways you can express your devotion to the Lord. hearing, chanting, and then service to the Lord's lotus feet, complete surrender to the Lord. So there are 9 processes, and any of these processes is equally pure. But in today's context, we talk about today's day and age. Now, just to give a short context, I'm sure all of you also know that we are living in a time which is called as Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga is considered as a very difficult time because everybody is quarrelsome, everybody is anxious, everybody has a very short life. So, in the Bhagavatam again, Shukdev Goswami says, Kaler dosh nidhe rajan asti hi ek mahan gun kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param raji. Oh dear king, he's talking to Parikshit Maharaj. He's saying, oh dear king, this age of Kali is an ocean of faults. Everything is faulty. Actually, nothing in this age is pure. Even the food that we get, we can think that it is pure, it is not pure. Even milk that we get is not pure milk. So we are living in a world which is very difficult to control. We will have so many reactions. But in this age, there is one Mahan Guna, Asti hi eko Mahan Guna, only one Mahan, Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param. One who glorifies the Lord by chanting and hearing His names can achieve perfection. Now, in the verse, I think immediately after this, he says, Krite yad dhyayato Vishnum, Tretayam yajato makhai, Dwapare paricharyayam, Kali tad harikirtana. So, these are the 4 ages. First yuga is Satya Yuga, Krita. Krite yad dhyayato Vishnum. In the Satya Yuga, people used to live for thousands of years. The scriptures tell us. There were sages who would sit in meditation for thousands of years to achieve perfection. Is it possible to sit for thousands of years? Do you have a life of thousands of years? Is it possible to sit in meditation quietly for 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Difficult. Some may be able to achieve to some extent. I am not denying it. There are some people who may be able to achieve a little bit, but that's not enough. You don't have that many years. So meditation was the prescribed duty for Satya Yuga. Krite yad dhyayato Vishnum tretayam yajato makhai. In Treta Yuga, you had to do fire sacrifices, yagyas. If you remember, Ramayana and all, it's all sacrifices. Everything comes from the sacrifice. So because the Lord used to get pleased by doing sacrifices, that was the process. Dwapare paricharyaya. In Dwapar Yuga, you serve the Lord as a deity, like temple. But all of these are not very easy and practical in today's day and age. We should do it as much as we can. It's not wrong to do it, but they are not the prescribed process because we are in a situation where life is short, so much anxiety, so much trouble. So, Kalir Tad Hari Kirtana. In Kali Yuga, the only process is Hari Kirtana. And what is Kirtan? Kirtan means hearing and chanting. So we also understand that, in Puranas, there's another verse to sort of give you more context of this. Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam. Kalau Nasti Eva, Gatir Anyatha. Yeah? So in the Puranas, this verse tells us, it says 3 times. In the Kali Yuga, Lord Hari's name, Lord Hari's name, Lord Hari's name is the only process that you can achieve success in one life. You can do meditation for as long as it takes, but you will need many lives. Right? You can do fire sacrifices, but the pure ingredients are missing, pure brahmanas are missing, so the results may take ages. You can do deity worship, but deity worship needs qualification. You have to be very, precise. It may take ages for you to perfect it. But this process is the recommended process. Okay? Nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva. 3 times. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So this sort of gives us the context of today's, understanding. So I will stop here because I think we are almost a little bit over time. But I'm happy to take any comments or questions if anybody has. Hare Krishna. If any one of you have any questions, any comments, any realizations, please feel free to interact. Yes.
Just now you tell like we have to do the things according to the like God's will. We have to align to the God's will. So how do we know like we are aligned to the God's will?
Very good question. So I think we ourselves don't have the capacity to judge the situation because we already have some defects. All of us have it. So when we know that what is aligned with the will, we have to check with Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So whatever you have in mind, if it's a very practical day-to-day doubt, best is to consult somebody who is engaged in bhakti, who is surrendered to the Lord. And the more you interact with people, you will realize people who are more pure, who are surrendered, and consult them in confidence, of course, and they will guide you. You can always check with, if you have a spiritual master, you have accepted, you have surrendered to a spiritual master, then the Guru will guide you. And of course, the Shastra. But if you are sincere enough and you sincerely pray just to the Lord, He is also there inside you as Paramatma. So He is called the overseer and permitter. So He has two processes. He oversees your actions and He permits your actions. Even if you want to do a bad action, Lord permits it because it's your desire. So if you say, I just like to just eat rasgullas, I'll eat 100 rasgullas. Lord will not stop you. He might give you a little bit, okay, maybe you'll have upset tummy, maybe. But if you, as a child, you keep saying, no, I will have 100 rasgullas, He will say, okay, have 100 rasgullas. But if you sincerely pray to Him, that Paramatma inside will also guide you to take the right decisions. But externally, you have Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So then once everything aligns, you are on the right path.
Thank you, Dr. I had one question. Like, as you said that Krishna was ready to give the Akshauhati Sena to Duryodhana. So even though he was aware that the Sena is going to die, so what was the reason?
So we must understand another thing that I wanted to bring up, but we were short on time. So we said that Lord is very very kind to his devotees who surrender to Him. But we must understand that the Lord is actually equal to all. He has He's ever well-wisher. He's everybody's well-wisher. So in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because of the desire of the Lord of course He wanted to reset the button. You know what is now in IT, I think everybody understands reset. So when something goes wrong in the computer, the first thing they tell you is reset. Shut down, restart. Shut down, restart. The purpose of the Lord's descent on the earth is to shut down and restart. And because He's there, it was destined that everybody was going to be killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra except for the Pandavas, Lord Krishna and some few other personalities. It was destined, and this destiny only Lord can see, because He can see present, past and future. We cannot see it. Even Arjun couldn't see it. So Arjun actually was feeling bad that all his people will die. And for the Lord it doesn't matter, because all the people who are on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, including Kauravas, including Narayani army, including everybody, achieved liberation. Because they got the darshan of the Lord for all those days that the war was going on. And they immediately got liberation, meaning they don't take birth again. They are all special souls. All of these are here because of Lord's arrangement. So, to answer your question, externally it may appear incongruous that He wants His army to die. He knows that but it's His way of mercy. Because even after the war, as we know, all the Yadus left. Because there was a battle, there was a fight in Prabhash. They had intoxication and they had a fight. And these are all family members of Lord Krishna. But this was again his, it's like a play, it's like Lord is conducting a play, and he wants these are all his near and dear ones, and he wants them to go back with him. But there has to be a reason to go back. You cannot just take everybody just like that. So he has to create the environment. And he also wanted to be equal to Duryodhana and Arjun, because both had come to meet him. So he had to give them a chance to make the right choice. And that part of the story is very, very instructive. So this episode tells us that in material world, Lord wanted to show that materially, if you have the best facilities and the best that the material world can give you, but if you don't have the Lord in your life, you will eventually be destroyed. And it's not destroyed, but you will not achieve what is the purpose of life. On the other hand, if you are materially whatever state, you may be poor, you may be rich, but if you make a sincere effort to be a helpless, surrendered soul to the Lord, then everything will be taken care. So that is the only difference, and that is what is the right choice that Arjun and Duryodhana have to make. Hare Krishna. The very fine details are not there, but we do know that the Kaurava army was totally wiped out, and there were huge casualties on Pandava's side as well. Pandavas definitely survived, and of course Bhishma Dev also was in a sense survived, but he died after the battle, during the later part. And some great personalities were there, but I think primarily it was the Pandavas and the Lord. And in the background, of course, whatever is needed to run the kingdom was there. So Yudhishthir Maharaj then took over and started rebuilding it. Of course, the moral was that whoever was against the will of the Lord was going to be destroyed, and whoever was involved in the battle as a Kshatriya, if you fight, your karma is to fight. If you die on the battlefield, also you get liberated. So those who are fighting for the righteous cause also got liberated, and those who are envious of the Lord also got liberated. If that's all right, I think we'll end here. Hare Krishna.
Let's thank Arvind Govind Prabhu by loudly chanting Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
So as part of next, we have